We tend to think of history as this constant, steady march of progress, right? Always getting better. But what if I told you that for a huge chunk of our past, for the average person, pretty much nothing changed at all?
Okay, so get this. Take a look at Italy, back in the year 1300. The average person was making about 1,600 bucks a year in today's money. Now, fast forward 600 years, think about everything that happened in that time. Columbus sailed the ocean blue. The Renaissance happened. The printing press changed the world. And after all that, the average Italian was still making $1,600. Can you believe that? For 6 centuries, life was just stuck. And then, around 1880, the Industrial Revolution hits, and boom, everything just takes off. And we've been on this insane rocket ship of progress ever since.
So, when your reality is that brutal and that, stagnant, you're going to dream of something better, right? And that's exactly what they did in the Middle Ages. They had this dream of a utopia, a perfect paradise they called cocaine.
A place where you have to eat your way through miles of pudding and roast geese just fly right into your mouth? It sounds ridiculous to us, but it tells you everything you need to know about how grim life was back then. Their biggest fantasy was just not being hungry. But here's the crazy part, the real twist. We are living in that land of plenty. Right now. Seriously, the world we take for granted would be straight up magic to our ancestors.
No, really. Think about it. We have tech that lets the blind see. We have robotic legs that let the paralyzed walk again. We have scientists who are literally bringing extinct animals back to life. We wiped out smallpox. A disease that killed hundreds of millions of people is just gone. For someone from the Middle Ages, this isn't science. This is a miracle. This is biblical prophecy coming true right before their eyes.
And it's not just the flashy stuff. The progress is staggering in ways that really hit home. Just 50 years ago, that's in our parents' or grandparents' lifetime, 1 out of every 5 kids didn't make it to their 5th birthday. 1 in 5. Today, it's 1 in 20. That is an incredible leap forward. So yeah, by almost any measure you can think of, we've made it. We're living in the land of plenty.
Okay, so if all of that is true, why are so many of us so miserable? That's the big question, right? That's the paradox we're going to dig into. If we're living in a paradise our ancestors couldn't even fathom, why does it so often feel kind of bleak?
Yeah, that's really the heart of it, isn't it? We're richer, safer, healthier than ever. You and I live better, more secure lives than pretty much any king a few centuries back. So, why are we working ourselves to death? Why are we facing epidemics of stress and burnout and anxiety?
The funny thing is, the great economist John Maynard Keynes, he thought the exact opposite would happen. Back in 1930, he predicted that by now our biggest problem would be boredom. He thought we'd all be working like 15 hours a week and trying to figure out what to do with all our leisure time. Wow, was he wrong? We're not bored, we're burned out.
And this chart right here shows a huge reason why. Around the year 2000, something broke. For a long time, the deal was simple. The more productive we got, the more money everyone made. The lines went up together. But look what happened around 2000. Productivity just kept shooting for the moon, but wages and jobs for the average person just stopped. They flatlined. Economists call it the Great Decoupling. It basically means the engine that connected hard work to a better life just snapped in two.
And this gets to the real crisis of our time. It's not that we don't have it good. We do. The real crisis is that we've stopped being able to imagine anything better. Our politics has become this small, timid thing, just about managing the status quo, putting out fires. We're stuck because we've forgotten how to dream big.
But what if the answer to this modern problem is actually a really old idea? One that's been championed by people all across the political spectrum. An idea that sounds crazy at first. Free money. Or, as it's more formally known, universal basic income.
Okay, I know what you're thinking. The second you say free money, everyone's mind goes to the same place. Won't people just waste it on booze and drugs? And look, it's a totally fair question. What happens when you just give people cash, no strings attached? Well, it turns out we don't have to guess. We have the data.
So check out this experiment in London. A charity decided to try something completely radical. They found 13 homeless men, guys who'd been on the streets for years, and they just gave them £3,000. Cash, no rules, no caseworkers telling them what to do. They just asked, "What do you need?" A year later, the results were incredible. On average, the men had only spent about £800. And what did they spend it on? A dictionary, a hearing aid, gardening classes, a phone to call family. They spent it on getting their lives back.
And this wasn't some fluke. The World Bank looked at studies from all over the world, and what they found completely blows up the stereotype. It turns out there's one thing poor people consistently don't spend free money on: alcohol and tobacco. In fact, in over 80% of the cases they studied, that kind of spending actually went down.
Okay, so they don't waste it. But what about work? That's the other big one, right? If you're getting money for nothing, why would you bother getting a job? Wouldn't we all just sit on the couch? Well, once again, we don't have to guess. We can look at one of the biggest experiments ever done on this.
Back in the 70s, this little town in Canada, called Dauphin, basically became a giant laboratory. The government gave everyone in town a basic income, and they tracked everything. So, did everyone quit their jobs? Not even close. The drop in work hours was tiny, and the only people who really worked less were new moms who took a little more time off to be with their babies, and teenage boys who stayed in school to finish their education instead of dropping out to get a job. It didn't make them lazy, it let them invest in their families and their futures.
So you see, this isn't some fluffy utopian dream. This is a practical idea, backed up by real evidence and a surprisingly long history. It's not a utopia for dreamers, it's a utopia for realists. And you are not going to believe how close the US came to making this a reality.
Get this, 1969, President Richard Nixon, yes, that Richard Nixon, he proposes a basic income for every poor family in America. And it wasn't some fringe idea. Newspapers, unions, big companies, they were all on board. The House of Representatives actually passed it twice, but it died in the Senate. Why? A mix of old, debunked myths and, get this, a moral panic over a single misleading statistic that suggested it would cause divorce rates to go up. It turns out that number was mostly women who finally had the financial freedom to leave abusive husbands. But it was too late. The story was out there, and the idea was dead for decades. Just imagine how different things could have been.
So let's just be super clear about what we mean by universal basic income, or UBI. It's really simple. It's a check, a periodic payment that goes to every single person, unconditionally. No work requirements, no 1,000-page forms to fill out to prove you deserve it. It's just a solid floor that nobody can fall through.
And that creates a totally different kind of safety net. Think about our current system. With all the best intentions, it's become this giant, complicated maze of bureaucracy. It's built on suspicion, on making you prove you're poor enough. And it often traps people. If you earn a little too much, you lose your benefits, so you're punished for trying to get ahead. A basic income flips that whole script. It starts with trust and dignity. It doesn't trap you, it gives you a launch pad.
And that's because it's based on a really simple but powerful idea. Poverty isn't a lack of character, it's a lack of cash. That's it. And if the problem is a lack of cash, what's the simplest, most efficient solution? Give people cash.
Here's another way to think about it that I really love. All of us are living on top of this mountain of progress built by generations before us. Their blood, sweat, tears, and brilliant ideas created the immense wealth our society has today. A basic income is just saying, hey, that wealth belongs to all of us. It's our collective inheritance. Think of it like a dividend on progress paid out to every citizen.
So that's why it's utopia for realists. It's not a fantasy, it's just practical. It trusts people to make their own best choices, and the data says that's a smart bet. It gets rid of tons of wasteful, soul-crushing bureaucracy. It tackles poverty at the source, and it does it more effectively and cheaply. And in a world where robots and AI are changing the job market every single day, it gives everyone a little bit of stability.
Ultimately, it's ideas that change the world, even the ones that seem impossible at first. Decades ago, UBI was almost the law of the land in the US. Now it's back in the conversation in a big way. And that's a powerful reminder that the way things are is not the way they have to be. We built this world, and we can build a better one. We just have to be brave enough to imagine it. So that leaves me with one final question for you. What's our next utopia going to be?